This is Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
On 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Yeah. I'm here. Don't worry. We're good. And is it okay to say happy Wednesday? I hear happy Sunday. And people say, oh, happy Friday, happy weekend, happy Monday, happy Wednesday, happy day every day. So happy Wednesday and welcome to Hard Facts. Thank you so much for staying with 95.1 Nigeria Info FM, your passionate, trustworthy, and conversational radio. I trust you've been having a great time with the amazing conversation from the morning Crossfire show to what's happening in Abuja. I saw you told her at a workshop and I said you told her you are having a little too much fun on that what's happening in Abuja belt. I'm a little uncomfortable with how happy you sound, like, in your own element. Come back to Hard Facts, my guy. But Sahel is on leave, so I can understand that someone has to hold the fort while he's away. So I'll be flying solo all through this week and next until he's back on Hard Facts. Well, Sunnyside show just wrapped up, and it's time for Hard Facts. It's hard because it's intense. We start off with some of the big stories driving conversation in Nigeria. And Nigeria, there's always intensity to things happening in the country. And then we shift gear. 5 o'clock hour, I would have an equally amazing guest who will join me on the show. She's called Lady Mechanic, MFR. I mean, she's doing so well and making, that field enticing for a lot of young women and men that she inspires every day. So we'll be having a conversation about her career, life, and all whatnot as she joins me on The Woman today. And then we'll have eyewitness report and situation update. So that's something to look forward to. And just before you think Kim is talking a little too long, is Dr. Majeed here or not? Dr. Majeed is in the building with me as I speak. Looking quite dapper, Dr. Majeed.
Really?
Like you came out from a high-profile meeting and decided to touch base with us here.
You're also looking very
thank you very much. You're very kind.
As beautiful as ever.
Thank you very much.
Sometimes I wish people can actually see the face behind the voice.
Now I'm blushing. When you make a black woman blush, you know it's serious. Thank you so much. You're very kind,
Thank
Dr.
you very
Majeed.
much.
And yes, last week, a lot of people like Kim, enough of the presidential election petition tribunal. Let's hear Dr. Majeed say. I said, no, you people said you wanted it televised. You will hear it to the end.
It's a national issue.
All 12 hours of it we broadcast.
Yes, of both on radio.
Yeah.
I was fully on TV, so it was one of the longest.
I know, right?
Probably in the history of the world. Judiciary. I don't know, but I don't have the facts about men.
I was thinking, if the request by Nigerians to say we have to televise the entire process, I bet you from the first day, people would have been fatigued.
Of course.
Imagine if you have to go case by case and broadcast. Who will watch it?
Even though one of those who said, okay, if it's possible, but it's good that the judgment was actually televised live for what to see. So it has generated conversations that probably also guide both the litigants, defendants, and the Supreme Court.
I quite agree with you, because there are people who said, oh, what's that guy saying? I watched it myself and I heard when the judge said this, and this is my interpretation. So you get people who are speaking from an informed perspective.
Sure.
Because not everyone has time to go and read through 720-something pages of it.
Definitely.
But following on TV and radio was a lot easier for people to take it. But then I still think the technicality was just high up there. PW, litigant one, this person one. And I'm like, what exactly is going on? But at the end of the day, I think we get the gist. A lot of this was struck out.
No, of course, a lot of it was struck out. Hopefully, maybe Supreme Court will either affirm or disagree with the appeal court. But whatever it is, at the end of the day, it will form part of our electoral jurisprudence going forward.
Yeah.
That's the most important.
Yeah. So we'll leave it to the interpretation of the Supreme Court. There are a lot of things that need to be, permanently put to rest by their verdict,
sure.
And would help us adjust our laws a little so that in future we'll not come and start all kinds of interpretation of what does "and" mean. What special status does the FCT enjoy? How is it that they've not been able to prove? Because, one thing I noticed from all of that is the burden of proof.
Yes, being on the petitioner.
Yeah. You have to prove. I mean, it just feels like you have to get people on the ground, keeping info, keeping data, keeping facts, because it's now on you to prove something that you would think everybody knows. but you have to bring the facts to the court of law.
Yes, this burden of proof issue is something that shouldn't surprise anyone, really. INEC is a constitutional body. It was created by the Constitution. And if you look at the intent behind the letters of the Constitution, it is presumed that every organ of the state, every institution of the state, agency of the state, or agent of the state are supposed to perform their duties in line with the intent of the Constitution. That is, it is called an election. People sometimes have forgotten that this is called an election. That is, in an election, a rigging, ballot box snatching, even vote buying, anything that will corrupt that word election is not supposed to be allowed. Should be prevented, otherwise it's not an election. But when INEC, a body that is actually given the responsibility by the Constitution to organize elections, conduct elections, and return candidates elected accordingly, it is deemed that they have done the right thing because they're a constitutional creation. But fortunately for us, the Constitution also made a provision for judicial intervention when any party feels cheated to explore. There's a judicial alternative to explore. So judiciary stands like, okay, serving as a check on all activities of the government, agents and institutions of the state. So they can nullify, they can affirm. It's like when you have problem with your wife or your spouse, there's somebody you go to.
Yeah.
So that is the rule of the judiciary. So whether there is a dispute, I say, look, these people didn't conduct this election in line with the mandate given to them, in line with the law. So the judiciary has the responsibility to look at the complaint and adjudicate accordingly. So in this instance, you that is complaining, the complainant must now come to prove to the court that, okay, even though INEC is deemed to have done the right thing by the law, in this instance, it has not. So these are my complaints. So that's why the onus of proof is, or the burden of proof is on the petitioner, really. But I also understand why some people feel that, look, in asking petitioners to prove, sometimes the way the law is structured in a way that it's a bit difficult, really, to prove the kind of electoral malpractices we have in Nigeria. And so, but there's something in the Electoral Act too, or in our legal jurisprudence, that's on the grounds upon which elections can be either nullified or, where the judiciary can make certain kind of decisions if proven. There's one thing that we have not really tested there, and that is corrupt practices. There's a word, there's a phrase attached to say corrupt practices.
Okay.
On the basis of corrupt practices. It's an omnibus word. It's like a word that seems to capture everything that is deemed, in the opinion of the presiding justices of any of the levels of adjudication, to say, look, if you consider certain actions of either INEC or political parties as constituting corrupt practices, it's a basis for certain actions to be taken. But the problem is, sometimes it's difficult to actually agree on what constitutes corrupt practices.
I was going to get to that because at the end of the day, it boils down to interpretation.
But for me, the focus shouldn't be on the judiciary, with all due respect. No, it's not on the judiciary. It's on INEC. INEC is supposed to be above board like Caesar's wife. You see, it's no longer acceptable that INEC will conduct elections and the courts will affirm it here or upturn it here. If you look at the judgment at every level so far, apart from the special election petition shot, if you look at national state assemblies, tribunal cases that have been concluded and judgments delivered, cases is like one party not being thrown out here and another one is being affirmed. We see a flurry of cases where elections are upturned either in favor of any of the parties and not as if it's against any party particularly. That should attract sanctions on whoever is responsible or who was for conducting such elections. That's how we are turned. INEC can no longer be allowed to do anything it likes, and people could now go to court and begin. No. This should be on INEC. We need to reform INEC. INEC is not living up to expectation. With all that, they're not. INEC conduct elections and it will attract the level of dispute. For example, if you look at the major content of the election, this issue of electoral commission, so the Electoral Act did not mandate elections electronically. It only the leg room to take discretionary decision on this aspect. But then it came out to repeatedly. We are going to do this. And they got money to procure for this that claim they wanted to do. And so, how do you
enough
begin?
for us to even have national conversation, even with the National Assembly, over areas where they have
Network
internet
coverage and all of
activity,
that.
what's going
So
to
the question
hinder
is,
all that?
INEC, what went wrong? I'm not saying, I'm not one of those who believe that electronic submission of results any foolproof measure against it, because in some elections where results were electronically resourcing disputes and even announced of some elections. So it has to be foolproof. So this is an instance that look, INEC should have come up with a better explanation than just election. You would have, all this doubt about action, all this controversy. Now, secondly, too, you see, we don't want one where it looks like INEC is not really living up to expectation. Example of a government institution today that has surpassed expectations. To show that it's not about government, it's about the individuals managing institutions. And I've always referenced integrity. Look at JAMB. Professor Isha Koloyode and his JAMB. In just a little over 5 years, JAMB has been transformed into an efficient, proactive government institution that conducts matriculation examinations for intending university graduates. Its administrative procedure, the technologies that are there, the methodology, the reforms that have been able to evolve over time. Let's say that JAM today is not living up to expectations. Yes, they are not perfect, they have little, but you can see that it is such work in progress. I say in essence, we need this accord. INEC ordinarily supposed to be doing certain things and disputing it. That's why, for example, when the girl from
The Analyst state girl.
JAM was able to come up with all the evidence to say, look, we're thinking ahead of these kids. And everybody will intend to do this.
I mean, it was even so brilliant when JAM we had changed the template. And for me, like,
they
all right.
were ahead of anybody who's intending to do something like this. That shows you that they are working toward progress. And their work is also in progress. We want to see something similar. We've seen General Marwa as the head of NDLA. We've seen the reinvigoration. We've seen the serious work being done now. Major achievements under his led institution. We need to get people of high character, high moral, competence, and patriotism to man INEC. So INEC for me is the focus, really. If you look at the way our laws are crafted and the practice direction of our judicial system over the years, morality seems to have been divorced from law. And there's this conversation all the time. They say, law is not morality. Say, no. There's a converging law.
They're not mutually exclusive.
They're very inclusive because the law was crafted to actually safeguard morality. So if you look at adjudications in some other jurisdictions like Western Europe and North America, it is a moral-based justice system that relies less on material facts, but the intent behind what you are doing. So you look at people, they go beyond what is before them. Look at the circumstances. Why am I saying this? Justices in Nigeria, judicial officers are Nigerians. They live in Nigeria. And they know have a problem of endemic problem of electoral malpractices. So it is my opinion that in adjudicating cases that are related to electoral disputes, that counts for something really. You shouldn't live in ignorance of your environment as a judicial officer. You are aware that these things really happen. I mean, you witness some of these things and some of the happen. So that should guide you in your judgment. Now, this is not prejudice, please, to the eventual outcome of the Supreme Court judgment. This is also not say that those who have been declared by INEC didn't win an election. No, that is not my responsibility. Responsibility of anybody, those who are partisan, who are spokespersons for political parties to come and directly say won or we didn't win. No, I'm just saying, irrespective of who won
we need to hold institutions to very high esteem.
Because so that we minimize these incidences of dispute arising from some of the less than desirable conduct of officers and men in terms of INEC.
To add to that, Dr. Majeed, even the fact that we saw a lot of young people, a lot of young Nigeria first-timers who had to fall over themselves, and it was big on the fact that, well, aside from perhaps people who were excited about certain candidates and all of that, there was this surge of confidence in INEC when talk about, as IREV was talked about, technology, like a steel trap process of infallibility that built confidence of a lot of young people that, the process is going to be credible. That was one reason you had people who, over the years, voter apathy to saying, with these beavers, or with this IREV, and with this uploading of results, the process will be. And so I confidently go out and vote. And so we'd not be uploading the results after that assurance, in spite of how perfect INEC will want to portray its own process. That there of doubt comes into saying, okay, if we can't trust you this, how do we trust elections?
I agree. However, it's also important to point out that despite all our misgivings, what we're talking about is a holistic election. My call INEC today is not even about the failure to transmit results, electronic presidential elections alone. No. Not the list of my problem. Honestly, if you
well, that's a significant problem to tackle. They've not been able to sell reason why that
what I'm saying is that is the list of my days, because a lot of other things happened at the grassroots. Beyond even what that of electronic transmission of result of presidential elections. No. Beyond that, a lot of other things happened that shouldn't have this election. As we have been seeing now coming to say, look, in some you'll be surprised. So certain things happen below the even when those are transmitted electronically, what I'm saying. However, this the last election was not on gains. The effort of the young ones, the confidence they reposed in the system or the base of the system, which made them to come in large numbers to vote, yielded significant results. And I keep making this point. I've always been consistent about this. If you know the difficult pain of Nigerian politics, the mockers, you will agree with me that the resilience of the Nigerian people, I keep emphasizing on this resilience. Those young men, including elderly people who decided to vote actually outside of the establishment, they made a difference in this election. They made a huge and significant.
Also,
this is the first in the history of Nigeria. The third force party was going to be a close third. In fact, was almost going to claim victory, and ended up winning. It was won 12 states alongside the parties, thanks to the resilience. What I'm saying in essence is that it's a win. It's a major win for our democracy because it tells you that what anybody wanted to do by way of manipulation, the people's resilience defeated substantially. So you saw a woman that was sitting up in Lagos and her eyes were almost blocked out. She turned back to vote. That's the resilience I'm talking about. You saw people lining up from morning of voting day into morning of the next day just to cast their vote. That is the resilience about. So that resilience, it's kind of annulled the effect some of the shenanigans. What the betting political party was supposed to do was to sustain that momentum by becoming the alternative. If you understand my point of view, I've been emphasizing this from the election results we announced. Look, I understand a little bit of how democracies evolve into truly liberal democracies that are large, of establishment chokehold. It takes a movement that is able to excite people enough to get people's trust, to get resilient to defeat the system. And so, what was a blessing? It shook the establishment. It was not an easy feat. I keep saying this, it was not easy to have defeated the PDP and the AP in Abuja, to have defeated the PC candidate in Lagos, to have defeated the PDP running mate, a sitting governor, to have combined Mole and Obaseki and knocked their heads together and defeated them to have Topejo the party PC in Nasarawa, and some other such, upset was in itself again because it has put the establishment on this, that the Nigerian people are not willing and able to take your underperformance and poor leadership. What I'm saying is, there are gains that we can build on. So the lesson learned for the 2023 is that the general to vote right and to vote actually functions. But it will require people to play certain kind of roles to make sure that people continue to push the boundaries and frontiers of liberal democracy in Nigeria. Let me tell you something that most people don't know. A candidate that people trust that's running a good of national rebate, as we saw in 2015 with Mr. Buhari, and we saw something close to that in 2023 with Peter Labour Party. Why is that? Even people in INEC, even people among security agencies that elements have corrupted to influence election in certain ways, will not do it because they believe that these people will have their country, but they're Nigerians as well. We saw it in 2023, we saw it in 2015, when police officers in places that were influenced by certain politics to go and rig elections refused to do it. Also Nigerians. And they have also seen this candidate would deliver change, benefit them and their people. In fact, it was so profound that people within the establishment, even with the presidency, we are working for the opposition party to believe that wasn't going to be better for them. It happened in 2020 as well. What I'm saying in essence, if we think INEC or the judiciary will for democracy, it will not necessarily. So what will fix it is people power. So we need to dig deeper into people power and make sure that every election cycle will advance this breaking of grounds continuously until the people overwhelm the system enough to now enthrone a truly people-powered government that is answerable to the people. So the political parties have a role to play here. And responsibility starts into the next tenure, and you continue to consolidate until things are due. People have been sufficiently excited to continue to push the boundaries.
On a quick break, we'll be back with more.
That's why we give you the microphone. Take your business to a level. Get your branding to a whole name in Abuja and beyond. Call our sales executive, John, 080 999 30 841. Joy 080.
This Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
Hello, my name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria for Hard Facts Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
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 This is Nigeria Info. This is Nigeria Info.
Yesterday, where it's reported that one person died as two factions, transport workers, NURTW, clashed on Sapele Crescent of Kintola Boulevard here in Abuja. And so said reporters of the NURTW President Barua marched to the Union Territory occupied by Lagos Park Management Committee led by Tajuddin Abede. And as you're aware, members of the Lagos Park, him forcefully occupied the secretary a few weeks ago, displacing the president and executive. Therefore, supporters of the president mobilized, forcefully remove Abede's group. However, they were met by a blockade, resulting in a violent confront. Shots were fired, says an eyewitness. And Barua has been seeking intervention of the police and the NLC to resolve the situation. They're still not hesitate to defend their mandate, Barua, accusing the former NURTW of illegally occupying the second. And also accused the union president, Majeed, the former national vice president, of holding meetings with past leader, and alleged the police to favor the Lagos Park Management Committee and called on the IGP to intervene in the matter. Some of these shot fired, allegedly killed, and chaos broke, which is not something you get to hear often
In Abuja.
in Lagos. And do you know when this report broke? Yes, like, no, this is a thing, not us thing. And it's best they address it before, because we've had one too many reports of URT road transport conflict in Lagos that's degenerated. And I mean, we need to hear.
It's very easy to stop really. And it's kind of role it plays when certain things happen. And you begin to wonder, why do we really wonder why Nigeria is having problems of security? When the police cannot just be a police for all and the police for internal security. By now, we should have had people arrested, charged, prosecuted diligently, and convicted accordingly. Illegal possession of firearms, for murder, and for any offenses related to these ugly incidents. That's what we want to hear. Talking about two factions, you are calling on INL to address the issue of a complete inanity as well. This shouldn't happen before. And now that it has happened, whoever is responsible connected to that, no matter how remotely, they should all be rounded up and charged to court. It's called law and order, enforcement of law and order. This is akin to terrorism. I'm not really interested in all of the background story. The fact that shots
were fired
in Abuja, and one or two persons are reported dead and a few others injured. Please, why are we not seeing arrest of people that are suspected behind this or perpetrators of this 24 hours later? That is what we should be asking. We don't want to know it's not our business. That is concern. Our concern is, look, people have breached the peace, security of this environment.
Yeah.
And let me just say this. That happening in Lagos does not make it even right. It's wrong for it to be happening in Lagos.
I mean,
Anyway,
we're interested that Lagos,
It's true.
where it's even politicized as to
no, if you
affiliation.
don't
of
have this
government.
book to be in Lagos, you understand what I'm saying? It's like a mafia that nobody seems to be able to rein in. And like you said, it's been politicized in Lagos and those days in Oyo State. It's a very serious issue. So we don't want kind of thing in Abuja. If you cannot contain it, please don't bring it to Abuja. Please, please, please. Please, we have enough headache already in Abuja. Yes. Minister of FCT should take more interest in this. Former Governor Wike, Minister Wike now.
Yeah.
He's been very nice. He's been very, up and about and trying to make sure that he secures this city and envelope of infrastructure. I think Wike should not keep quiet because it's happening under his own territory. It's under his area of responsibility. And so the police must be made to bring those who did this to book immediately. That should be the answer by all Nigerians now. Police should be put to justice now to bring them to book. Want to start dead as those behind it. And our sponsors, no matter how connected, such person brought before the law now. Others, look, if you cannot solve this problem, don't think you can solve terrorism and banditry. Yes, you don't think so. Don't think you can bend the law in certain places and think it in some other places. No, this is called enforced of law and order. I remember I said something at the beginning of the time. When the president appointed NURTW as national security advisor, I wasn't one of those who believed a soldier, somebody who has a military background, or should have preserved that office. I'm not one of those. I believe anybody can. Provided you have diplomacy,
Yeah.
you are a scholar, of course you have military background, or security background generally. So yes, soldiers are preferred, military officers, because of the dense component of national security, particularly military officers that have served other years, or some military diplomacy too. I have knowledge of military diplomacy. But bringing a police officer, try to put balance. What can he do job? I said, well, for me, a police officer is inferior to a soldier or any other security. It's called police. And the advantage this will bring to the table is this. Nigeria is not facing such an external challenge than internal.
Yeah, no, yeah.
We have an internal insurance. It's being supported, yes, by certain externalities, but it's majorly internal. It's like a cost of internal security. And that is the directive of the Nigerian police force. Enforcement of law and order for the purpose of internal security. I'm saying, now that we have a police officer, a retired police officer, as NSA, I should have thought that by now, a comprehensive blueprint for the reform of the Nigerian police is to restore internal security architecture effectively across the country. Should have been on the table. Now that we have another gentleman as IGP, as the president when he was of Lagos, I understand. I don't know how.
Yeah.
He was one of the commissioners of police. He was governor. I also have another very fine gentleman officer, the IGP of police, Solomon Arasi, the chairman of the Police Commission. I was thinking that with these three people in charge, they would have been able to by now influence certain security policy advisories, make the president to prioritize reform of the police force, to position it that which it is, or to be that which is not that which it is now. That is a police force that will no longer just, as alleged by that report, take one of the police force in this fracas. I don't find people by mentioning their names here, but I'm sure everybody knows the tendencies that are at play here. We don't have this kind of police, but this was what led to the collapse of security, which resulted into self-help here and there, and the almost, the overrun of our territorial integrity, all manner of armed groups today. So I want to see that restored as the first two wars combating heightened security in Nigeria, so that the armed forces will come into legal sort, while the police is able to maintain law and order in the entire governed space in Nigeria. As it is today, if the police continues in this one, it becomes even more weakened. Take up this role. So I think this should be like a wake-up call to say, look, the Nigerian police force, if it's unable to fish out culprits of people who shot guns in Abuja, in the center of the town, then how is the Nigerian police force to be able to fish out criminals from far-fetched places? So we want to see this as an opportunity to have this conversation that, look, the position of the police force. Because this tendency of now above the law because of connections, as of this report, if it is true,
based on the allegation of one
this
party,
report,
saying that the police
and
is
you know
fake.
that the police has been traditionally politicized. Those who control the laws of power have simply decided to use police as a tool of political machinations. So this may not be far-fetched, but I hope it is not. But if it is, this can no longer be allowed to continue. Look, when we tell the politicians in this country that we cannot take this, the system, the people can no longer take this level to extent. Even this, the government increasingly failing its responsibility because of such actions. So we want to see a comprehensive police reforms now that we have the police that are almost charge of security advisory network in the country. We have another very, very high-profile police officer as the chairman of Police Service Commission. And then you have an IGP, that's also a very police officer. They need to come together and save this country's security by repositioning the Nigerian police force to take constitutional role of internal security maintenance and enforcement of law and order. It is not enforcement of law and order. In fact, unless the police produce this within the next 24 hours, I will personally accuse them of.
There are policemen there who report were also armed, so it's left for us to establish if it was fired by the police, if it was a stray, it was men of the NURTW.
As long as somebody was reported dead, as long as somebody made an attempt to forcefully enter a premises at the whoever is responsible for that gunshot that led to the loss of life, who was responsible for the disturbances of the FCT and any Nigeria for that matter, including Lagos, should be brought to book. We need to use this as a to show that the Nigerian police force is not ready to tolerate any form of impunity and unruliness.
Look, also, you want to also look at the power of the NURTW. I know they play significant role in election. We're needing them to move some non-sensitive materials and move issues and all of that. That's very critical and important. But we've seen from Lagos to Oyo State to one state where they constitute such a formidable force that you're getting to see state instruments contend with them in terms of your changing leaders and threats are made, disrupting the process and terrorizing people to a certain degree. And I'm thinking, hasn't even come to the point where we can't continue. People get too big for their bridges and become a rich upon themselves, and we always talk about nonsense.
This was allowed by the peculiars. If you look at states where any of such unions have become authorities unto themselves, they are being aided and abetted by those supposed to bring them under the control of for political reasons. As simple as that. Same thing with Oyo. When Adibu was in charge of Oyo, Adibu was using the instrumentality of NURTW to carry out his political activities against his opponents. It's the same thing with Lagos. You know the story of Lagos is all too well known to everybody. So it's a failure of leadership. When you want to grab power at all costs, the tendencies to thrive serve your political interests. And so you combine the state, you undermine the state, for purpose of non-state actors that are at your service. And at the end of the day, the state loses, the other person loses because the state is very inefficient. That is the problem. So it is no longer in anybody's interest, because of the crippling insecurity that we have been facing in this country, to continue with. You cannot solve problem of Boko, banditry, or other of terrorism without fixing the problem inability to enforce law and order against anybody, institution, or group. It's something we must do. Otherwise, we will just be bullets in the northeast and in the northwest and the central fighting terrorists. Because some of the causative factors are not yet taken care of.
Well, moving away from a little, but still tied to security, it's the fact that we see major concern with kidnapping and general insecurity in the country. From Benue, where there's report gunmen hijacking 2 fully loaded buses belonging to bank and kidnapping about 10 passengers. This one happened on a Sunday when the buses were loaded in Makurdi, because they were intercepted along Abuja Road, suburb of Kogi State, and they heard that the gunmen laid ambush on vehicles, intercepted them, led 10 passengers into the bush, and they said that occurred between 2 and 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. A staff of the Benue Link Company who spoke to this on condition that his name would not be mentioned said it was not nice to speak, but confirmed indeed that it happened. I mean, you're seeing that in broad daylight. We're still trying to wrap our heads around the kidnap of 8 Akwa Ibom state graduates in Zamfara State on their way to Sokoto for the Youth Service Corps. Have did an additional 200 million naira, collecting 13 million earlier paid by the victim family. The victims who were kidnapped on the 10th of August have spent 26 days in the quarantine. They are still there. And I'm making more demand. They've given you 30 million, now up in the ante. If you can bring 13, you can bring million. That's a faulty logic. But that's what they're working with. And that's not that. From pockets of, even here in the FCT, there's a report of a woman and her child, I think here in the FCT, man narrated how his wife daughters were kidnapped here. A public servant, Surajuddin Olashinde, they narrated how his wife, Mistura, and 2 daughters, Hawa and Fatima, were kidnapped around Gama district of the FCT. Staff of the Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory, she said the incident occurred on Friday, 8 p.m. September, when his wife and children driving home in their Toyota Highlander from to Starwood Estate, where they reside. And around the Kabusa Estate garden, the spot was terribly bad. The kidnappers came out from the bushes, attacked them. They started shooting at people, and then that's how they marched. So we're looking at from the city center to the interstate road
to the highways, to the fringes of the country. Security is creeping in. It's like we used to call it heightened security, but it's now a monstrous and serious form of security now, because it's bursting in places, it's spreading fast, and manifesting in places you never thought it could first. This location is like in the heart of Abuja. Because something I'm very familiar with. Now, again, we've not seen any strategy in place. We've not seen any move towards rethinking the problem of heightened insecurity that Nigeria is facing. I'm saying this because we cannot pretend that everything is okay and continue to move on as it is okay and continue to apply the same strategy over and over. It can't work. Now, there are different security agencies having different and peculiar causative factors.
Yeah.
First city, and major in Abuja, internal security challenges in some of this. You see, the level of violence, the level of hopelessness in the land, I feared was going to spark security in Abuja especially. And we started seeing some of these tendencies. I think over the weekend, true, was this a few days ago, along the Life Camp Cafe district, something similar to this happened, true. And that was why I was worried when these shanties were being cleared, the Jabi Park and all that. I said, look, if you know you don't have a plan to relocate, to create an alternative for some people, isn't it better we allow the sleeping to lie on plan? Because it was the failure of government that created hoodlums. Abuja, for example, there are hoodlum settlements, what you call shanties, almost in every posh area.
In urban poverty just stares you in the face.
If you look at the beautiful side, there's a shanty there. Utako, the same thing. Life Camp, Asokoro, the same thing. Zabe, the same. So it's the same. I mean, it's like you said, all stares you in the face. And expressed emotions when, the new minister was talking about credit, and I said, look, this may not necessarily be a priority for now. If you ask me, if this place and these hoodlums lose hope of existence, I don't know, anything can happen then. This is not to justify what they are doing. Saying, when you have this level of vertical suffering and hopelessness, it triggers urban crime. As well as Abuja, the spike is frightening. And that was why when the minister resumed, I said, look, in as much as you are trying to be and I want to be, you see, Abuja of 2020, not necessarily Abuja of 2003 and 2004. Why am I saying this? Master plan of Abuja has largely been restored, and even though there are still violations here and there, but it's not enough to be enough. It can be corrected quietly. What Abuja needs mostly is economic development. What Abuja needs is rural infrastructure to expand amenities into councils and the suburbs. Thirdly, and mostly, this week is school week. In case you don't know this, Abuja residents pay very high tax rates. And so Abuja is one of the ranked states in terms of IGR. But that IGR has not really reflected much in the social lives of Abuja people. So we don't have adequate and functional public schools that accommodate tax-paying parents.
Yeah.
We don't have functional medical facilities and health centers, publicly funded, taxpayers' money, that can also accommodate this in Abuja. So most places in Abuja, private education for children and for their families. This is a serious parent. So this week as we are speaking, let's depression as we speak, because the in school fees, they don't know where to start from. So I'm saying to the minister, what Abuja needs now is massive investment of these taxpayers into improvement and expansion of public school systems that will make it standards enough for parents not to have the guilt, to feel the guilt of bringing their wards there, so that to have this relief from this pain of huge school fees into private education providers. The same thing with care. He needs to also improve an healthcare facility that people can easily walk into a public healthcare facility and get treatment for most basic ailments without feeling as if they are endangering lives. This for me is the most important need in Abuja. You see, the way they want to go about this matter, I had predicted, look, people, if they become hopeless, we saw it during the end protest. Just a few days of people sitting at, we saw what happened. It triggered a riot. So I say, in Abuja, we need to clear shanties. Let us be careful to provide alternatives. Make sure that the economy is buoyant enough to accommodate people that really want to work, on one hand. But on security generally, we talk about kidnapping along Lokoja Road, right?
They're going to Sokoto traveling.
So fine. And some other highways where you still have this issue. One thing we must do is to think out of the box. I think we've canvassed a number of solutions here. What we are facing on that front is internal insurrection. And we don't want to a situation where we become like Haiti. We are going to take over the country. Now, what do we need to do before it gets to do? A number of measures must be put in place. First, about repositioning the Nigerian police force and getting us stakeholders to strengthen us. But beyond that, while that process is good, there's something we need to do now Any country that has faced an internal insurrection and insurgency as we have today didn't defeat it by conventions alone. We've the civilian JTF in the northeast trying to help forces to combat insurgency. We've seen a number of states in the north setting up vigilante groups. The latest has been Kaduna state government. I read somewhere that the governor of Kaduna has employed 2,000 members to combat insecurity. Now, these efforts are futile. One factor. And that's include, of course, Montekon in the southwest. The governor of Benue, former governor of Benue, also had a number of people and called them forest guards. But it has not been able to bring this to another control. They don't have the equipment work. You can't be setting up vigilante to go and use their bare hands or ding guns to fight AK-47 carrying criminals and terrorists and some RPGs. I mean, these are sophisticated weapon systems that bring down aircraft of the Nigerian. You can't send people, no matter how many they are, if you like, hire 100,000, they can't do anything about it. This brings me back to the issue I've been canvassed a long time. It is commendable state governments are beginning to recruit people into vigilance, like what the Kaduna governor has just done. But these 2,000 will be useless if you don't have caliber of weapons to fight and to work at different methods. Again, the federal will consider incorporating these various vigilantes across the country into the civil defense. I won't be tired of making this happen. They should create a volunteer corps in the civil defense. Now, Kaduna has created 2,000 vigilante group. We collapsed into that volunteer corps in the civil defense to be headed by a regular officer of the civil defense. But the difference is, it is the state government and another populated individual from the state that will be funding their operations. But they are under the control of civil defense. So that they'll be given the right training, the right armament, most importantly, 7, with which to safeguard their communities, their farms, their cattle herds, and everything of value to them. And this will enable them to repel and hold firepower against terrorists, both on the highways, in the farms, in the village, in the cattle colonies, everywhere there's a affection. It will enable them to hold firepower against these people, to serve as line of defense before conventional forces. It will save lives. It will encourage banditry and criminality because when you now know that if you go to a community, you die because they have people you are carrying. You will think twice. The reason why criminals come over and over again is because they come and they kill everybody. There's no resistance. To the point that somewhere in Katsina, they convert themselves into a pseudo government where wives and daughters will leave their homes and go into the kidnappers, the bandits, then taking turns with the kidnapping pins. It happened because their fathers are unarmed and defenseless. I cannot do that situation. From Iraq to Afghanistan, to Colombia, anywhere you've seen insurrection, the people were of counter-insurgency. Nigeria is different. So, civil defense is a useful special vehicle for this. Get these groups into it, like the Amotekun has been from the southwest. Collapse them into that civil. That's in the civil defense. They become civil defense officers, and you get a caliber of arms. Why it is good to be under the format of control is any reason somebody decides to use them against the initials, it can easily be disbanded. Do you get it? So, but bring them under the control. I'm going to allow them to do that, which they really set up to do. During the Nigerian Civil War, for example, soldiers who fought the war. No, they're volunteers. Particularly the communities were trying to break free from the old Eastern and Biafra territory. They had volunteers. Adekaburu was not a Nigerian soldier, he was a student. But he was a volunteer on the side of the Nigerian troops. And he carried arms on behalf of the state. So we had such groups. It's normal. People were even recruit emergency into the armed forces right after the war, just to boost troop numbers. I was saying, instead of putting this burden on the armed forces proper, civil is there. So that when people can easily be disengaged as a volunteer, are resettled appropriately. And if you want to be safe, you can draw this volunteer from ex-servicemen, personnel, those who have level of security experience. Bring them into the core of this group and bring some other volunteers. So it will have some level of control. They have to do to defend their homeland against terrorists.
You know, one of my biggest plots, Majeed, is when this sort of insecurity starts to morph.
Yes.
And it's morphing already. Because, you know, it went from the aspect of the kidnapping and all of that to the aspect where you're getting to see people are not directly tied to, the guys in the bushes
no. This is just
and bandit.
Yes.
To say, economy is no job, or one or two persons who has a machete and a gun, and then you have people on the highway. It takes us back to the days of robbery on the highway where you can stop a bus and rob everyone. Now they don't carry cash, so you are the currency.
Yes.
Hold on to that person, and then the money come at the end of the day. So it's multifaceted. Even the approach has to change, honestly.
It has to change. So, as we need an improvement in the socialization of Nigeria and Nigerians, it's very important to take care of the crime aspect, urban crime. We need an improvement. I mean, there was time in Abuja, you would leave your car, go to the nightclub, come out,
Yeah.
and we knew there was a time because also at that same time there was a rise and expansion in the middle class that helped a lot of people into gain employment. We saw that period. This was probably 2001 and 2011 before they declined. So we noticed that there was, we needed to do much more than that. So we need to put in the hard work because crimes are motivated by hopelessness, particularly the ones in urban areas. And I'm saying we need to improve the people. That's on one hand. But to combat it, what we are trying to improve a lot is to the Nigerian police force to do this job. Look, the welfare of police must be improved. I drive around Abuja, I see policemen, and I shake my head and say, why are we wondering why police officers are not able to actually combat crime? Have you seen the condition? Have you seen their living condition? Have you seen their rules? A survey came out one time that indicated that Nigerian police officers are more the lowest paid in the world. And the competitors of some kind of country, how can police officers in some countries receive more money than Nigerian police? It is not something that we continue with. To do more, a police officer is like identity of the country. When you call the police, it gives you an idea of what the country is like. But just take a look at our police officers. Part of the reform I'm advocating is attract the best hand into the police force. And their integrity should be safeguarded by adequate welfare, adequate financial, physical, and all forms of safety themselves, so that they can in turn serve us. It's an investment we must make. Otherwise, we'll be looking for pin in a haystack by trying to find out what the solution is to a problem that we all know is glaring to us. And to that, to combat insurgency and terrorism across the board, this people collapsed into a formidable state-backed force that can combat terrorism in Zara, can combat terrorism in Borno, everywhere, in the southeast, everywhere. We need the people to be ahead, but they should be empowered to do so. And the governor should take this request to the president. Just look, can we collapse our groups into a civil defense corps that is like, it happened in Lagos. People get this. As governor, very ingenious approach to security. He got, or would I say, approval from the federal government 2006 to import weapons for the police force in Lagos. And that improved police force in Lagos. Yes. So he has their lethal capabilities to defend lives and properties and to protect lives and to enforce law and order. Something similar can be done for the vigilantes. Civil defense.
I mean, that was very clear in the height of the Ado cultist attack where they were helping people.
Exactly.
And we saw how they went into action and dealt with that. Enough that out.
The state government procured it. Look, there's nothing wrong with this. You know, this is our state governors need to wake up. If you look at the state commands, Nigerian police force, by now states should have been able to not only transform the entire architecture in their state, including facilities, providing vehicles, including extra pay. Like in Lagos, unfortunately, I don't know of now, police officers used to extra pay, additional pay to what they get from the Nigerian federal government. So every state is supposed to add something substantial to the police officers. The barracks, the accommodation should be a responsibility of the town. Because securing your state. Your states are secured, you're going to generate more tax. If you're imposing security tax on the people, please do by all means. It's cheaper than costing lives. Make sure you generate money and invest heavily in the Nigerian police. And where the gap is too wide, the number of men you need to police your state after running your security architecture is less than what the Nigerian can afford. I think the police, the state governors can actually do recruitment, special recruitment states by the Nigerian police force and fund. I think they should be able to do that through administrative collaboration between the center and the sub-regional government.
All right, talk some more after the break. Dorcas is here for us at the top of the hour. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with 95.1 Nigeria Info.